God of War 2018 breathed new life into the series, which had begun to lose its color in the modern age. Upon release, it left gamers amazed with its gorgeous visuals, art direction, exciting new gameplay direction, and the engaging and deeply human story about a father and a son traversing the Norse wildlands together on a journey of self-discovery and grief. The sequel, God of War Ragnarok, has now been released, and it improves upon things that we loved and things that we hated in the previous game. Ragnarok takes many steps forward, especially in the writing and gameplay departments. We wouldn't blame you if you ended up playing through Ragnarok too quickly in stretched out binges considering how good it is. Whether you're done with Ragnarok and need to fill the void with similar games, or just want to play some games that you love like Ragnarok, here's a list of the top 10 of these games that will leave you wanting for even more. Number 10. Assassin's Creed Valhalla. The latest entry in the famed Assassin's Creed series is set in the 9th century during the Viking Age of Britain's history. It sees you exploring Viking-era Britain as a Viking raider looking for a new home for his or her people. Assassin's Creed Valhalla lets you explore 4 kingdoms of Northumbria, East Anglia, Mercia, and Wessex, which have stunning visuals that leave players in awe. The game also has amazing music and many nods to Norse culture that will leave you with a smile on your face as you're reminded of them from Ragnarok. You can even travel to Asgard and Jotunheim, and you get to meet familiar characters during the game, such as Thor, the squirrel Ratatosk, Fenrir, and Valhalla's version of Loki. The Norse culture showcase will give Ragnarok's fans a new view of just the same, especially those who want to dive into it more after playing Ragnarok. The game has an RPG system somewhat similar to Ragnarok and features a versatile and brutal combat system that is sure to please those who loved Ragnarok's combat. Number 9. Through the Woods. Through the Woods is an indie horror game based on Norse folktales. While it may not have the flashy combat of Ragnarok, it has great atmosphere, music, and art design. The game dives deep into the fantastic imagination of Norse folklore and shows you imagery and creatures that leave you stunned. You take the role of Karen as she looks for Espen, her kidnapped son, in a remote Norwegian forest with several small villages. As you progress through the game, you come across varied environments and creatures and rune-inscribed stones that hint at a greater and ominous ancient history that is tied to the fate of her son. Through the Woods is sure to please Ragnarok fans who want to dive much deeper into Norse folklore and culture, while showing a narrative of a parent and child's relationship not much dissimilar to Ragnarok. Number 8. Shadow of the Tomb Raider. While the similarities between Ragnarok and this one seem bare, there are quite a lot of things they have in common. Both are narrative adventure games with a focus on exploration and have amazing set pieces and action sequences. Shadow of the Tomb Raider also introduced new mechanics and side quests by making the game an open-world adventure, with stunning visuals, locations to explore, mind-bending puzzles to solve, and ancient mysteries to solve as she journeys through the jungles of Central and South America. While it may not have been as well received as its predecessors, it is an amazing game that has a lot to offer for people willing to give it a try. Ragnarok fans who wish to play an open-world adventure game with a focus on old civilizations are sure to enjoy this. Number 7. For Honor. For Honor is Ubisoft's third-person action brawler that leans on the more realistic side than the fantastic and otherworldly. It is basically a melee fighting game that offers tense duels instead of epic fights with supernatural powers, and it does so flawlessly. Not only does it have stunning visuals, but also a very deep combat system that is sure to please even the most hardcore of melee combat fans. You can play as a Viking, Samurai, Knight, or Hulin and fight it out with the other factions in online multiplayer, or even play through the single-player campaign that the game has for those wanting a more relaxed experience. But the real fun truly lies in the multiplayer, where you get the chance to meet and battle skilled players who will test your abilities to the maximum limits. Ragnarok fans who just want to play as a Viking and let loose, or want to play as other warriors with a deep combat system, will love For Honor. Number 6. The Banner Saga Trilogy. The Banner Saga trilogy of games is all turn-based RPGs with a tile-based combat system that takes place in a world inspired by Norse mythology. It was the debut title of Stoic Studio, a development studio founded by former BioWare developers, which would lead many to expect a tight narrative upon which it does deliver. This is also why its storytelling shares some similarities with the likes of Dragon Age. The game features amazing writing and characters, with the game shaped by every choice you make, offering an amazing narrative that grips you throughout. The soundtrack was composed by Austin Wintory, the Grammy-nominated composer of such amazing games as Abzu and Journey. As such, the music is beautiful and soothing, making the game all the more unforgettable. Ragnarok fans who want to witness an amazing narrative inspired by Norse mythology with amazing writing and characters must play all the games in the banner Saga series. Number 5. The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Skyrim is easily one of the most iconic games of all time and needs a little introduction. Although it launched way back in 2011, it has seen multiple re-releases over the years on various platforms. However, to this day, Skyrim remains an amazing RPG that has clear inspirations from Norse mythology and folklore. The game taking place in the lands of the Nords further seals the deal, but what sets Skyrim apart from various other RPGs is the amount of freedom it offers. The map of the world is huge and freely explorable at the player's leisure. The game features a deep character creation system with many skills and many ways to play. You can use anything from melee combat to magic to defeat a wide variety of foes, even large dragons. The soundtrack is great, and the game has vast amounts of lore to acquire and learn on their own if they are interested or willing. Any mention of Skyrim would be incomplete without pointing towards its mods. The game boasts a very large amount of mods that introduce everything from better textures and new mechanics to entire quests and skins. There are also multiple God of War mods as well, which makes the game all the more fun to play and experiment with. Fans of Ragnarok who want to play an open-world RPG that has a huge detailed world and many mythical creatures and ways to play must check out Skyrim if you haven't already. Number 4. Ghost of Tsushima. Developers Sucker Punch Productions' first new IP after the infamous games, Ghost of Tsushima is an action-adventure game set during the time of the first Mongol invasion of Japan. Players get to play as Jin Sakai and protect the island of Tsushima while having to choose between his honorable samurai code or using other underhanded tactics to dispose of enemies. The game has a large map rife with stunning vistas and diverse environments that can be explored on foot or on horseback. The game has a diverse melee combat system in which various skills can be used to defeat enemies. It also has an amazing soundtrack and well-written characters and performances by their respective actors. The game was nominated for several rewards such as Game of the Year at various events and by multiple publications. It is sure to please Ragnarok fans looking for an open-world action game with deep melee combat and amazing performances by their respective actors. Number 3. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. An amazing game and the third one in the long-running series, The Witcher 3 is a stunning open-world RPG filled to the brim with intrigue. It features some of the best writing in recent years, especially in the case of its amazing and thought-provoking side quests that are a far cry from very basic fetch quests that seem to have become so common in today's games. Players take the role of Geralt of Rivia, a monster hunter for hire who is in search for his adopted daughter Ciri while she's on the run from the titular Wild Hunt. The game is based on a series of fantasy books, so there is a large amount of lore to obtain and experience in the game should the player wish to do so. And on top of that, there's a large open world with several regions with their distinct flora and fauna. The combat system is quite detailed, with several magical abilities to learn and upgrade along with Geralt, and potions to craft and use for several benefits in combat or otherwise. The environments are amazing, and the game is rife with characters and creatures inspired by Slavic mythology, which has close links to Norse mythology and will be a nice touch for players as they recognize the little nods and details that give its inspirations away. The soundtrack is very detailed and stunning as well, which seems perfect for the fantasy time and setting the game portrays. The Witcher 3 was nominated for several awards in multiple major categories and won Game of the Year at several events, such as the Game Awards 2015. The popularity of the game led to a Netflix adaptation of the books as well. The Witcher 3 is for Ragnarok fans who want to play an open-world RPG with amazing writing and immersive gameplay. Number 2. The Last of Us. There's little to say about The Last of Us that hasn't already been said ever since it released for the first time way back in 2013 on the PlayStation 3. A deeply moving and human tale of a broken man full of regret and grief who loses his daughter but finds another in the form of a young girl who he is hired to smuggle out of a military quarantine zone. Joel and Ellie's journey mirrors the journey of Kratos and Atreus in many ways, as both of them still have a lot to learn as they grow closer and learn from each other. This is a tale that will leave many in tears. The backdrop of The Last of Us is a post-apocalyptic, zombie-infested world, which is in stark contrast to the fantasy setting in God of War. The Last of Us also features brutal combat, but its focus on stealth and crafting takes it down a different direction. Cory Barlog was actually quite inspired by the narrative and storytelling of The Last of Us, and the inspirations are very clear once you start playing the game. The Last of Us is a must-play for Ragnarok fans who want to play an adventure game focused on a father and child's relationship and with amazing performances by its actors. Number 1. Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. A game in which the Vikings are not the good guys. Hellblade follows the female protagonist Senua, who is a Celtic warrior, as she travels across Helheim in search of her lover, although Hellblade's version of Helheim is very different and dark compared to God of War's. The combat and perspective are very similar to God of War's, and you fight enemies both human and not. However, the real highlight of Hellblade is Senua, which is backed by a haunting performance and motion capture of Senua's actress Melina Jurgens. The way that the game deals with psychosis as Senua hears voices and sees unreal visions, backed with an amazing performance by Jurgens, sweeps you off of your feet. Despite being developed on a limited budget, the game has phenomenal storytelling and development values, which do not let the budget hamper the quality of the game. Developer Ninja Theory also created the world of Hellblade with intricate detail and historical accuracy, as you hear familiar names and tales that leave a smile of familiarity on your face as you play the game. Hellblade is probably the one game that is the closest to God of War Ragnarok in terms of similarity, although both are basically very different games, especially when it comes to their presentation. It is a must-play for anybody that liked God of War Ragnarok or anyone looking for a game with amazing performances by actors.